Previously on Inside Scoop.
That this is part of the conflict that they're having. Their disagreements and stuff is causing him a great amount of anxiety. Her not wanting to have children, all that.
But
is
it looks like
making him ill.
her and the thought of having children gives her anxiety.
It looks like it, yeah, from the preview. So, yeah, I can't see how they can work that out, if that's the case.
I'm Kelly.
And I'm Steve.
And this is Coupled with Chaos.
Inside Scoop, Volume 231. We're going to talk this week, Last Resort first, and afterwards, well, we'll just tell you at the end what we're going to do afterwards. How about that? Last Resort, Season 2, Episode 7. You're not first, you're last. I think deeper in this one was, while the Natalie and Josh thing is obviously enough to discuss a whole episode about, the Brandon and Julia stuff was I think pretty deep.
Uh-huh.
She unveiled here that she got herself checked out while she was in Russia.
Mm-hmm.
And what did she say?
That they told her there's something wrong with her inside and that she cannot have children.
And that
was pretty devastating.
Yeah, is Brandon a part of the reason and his desire for kids enough for her to keep this to herself?
Yes, because she said on this episode that she was afraid because he wanted it so badly that he would abandon her if she couldn't give him a child.
Yeah.
And I still honestly didn't like his response when she said that.
Well, no, he's still a narcissistic kid.
Because he said, no, I wouldn't leave you. There are other ways to have a child.
Right, could go the Jasmine way.
But the way he said it, I forget the exact words he used, sounded like you still have to have a child.
Yeah, we're having kids.
Not like we could adopt. Like he wasn't taking any pressure off her in his response. And I thought that was wrong because she is almost speechless, overwhelmed with emotion about it. And he surely has to recognize how devastating this is for her and that he really needs to be careful and tread lightly on this topic.
Do you think he believes that this is a real physical thing?
I think he believes that she was told that. I don't think he believes that it's the truth. That's why he wants a second opinion. He doesn't trust the Russian doctor.
You don't think that...
He wants to hear it from an American.
You don't think he believes that she's trying to get out of it by saying this?
No, and that's clearly not the case. I mean...
Well, I understand that.
You can see it in her face, that you can't fake that.
My concern is that she hadn't mentioned this before.
Well, he wasn't surprised. Yeah, so he knew of this. They had talked about it. She just wasn't sharing it with anybody else. And it does explain why she was closed off about it. That's a painful thing to have to admit. You know, for some women feel like that's part of their role in life as a spouse.
Well, doesn't society and our parents put this kind of pressure on couples and women? And I don't want to say couples because that's a burden that most frequently that you women have to bear when it comes to that pressure. You know, I don't think people go to their male children too often and go, when are you having kids?
Right.
When they come over to the house for Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever it turns out to be. I think the pressure is really solely on the woman.
Yeah, I don't think as a parent that you should pressure your children about that because
I'm not saying you should.
You have to be ready for that. You know, ready as in ready to put your all into it. Like, you know, we waited intentionally because I had kind of a career going and I had goals I wanted to meet and I didn't want to, stop working and resent my choice at some point for not achieving goals I had for myself. So we waited on purpose, and I never had any regret at all. And I think waiting was the right thing to do, also because, like them, we didn't know each other that long before we got married. And so...
Well, they knew each other longer than we knew each other before they got married.
It helped solidify things between us
and
make sure we were solid before we had children. So I don't think as a parent that you should ever put that kind of pressure on your kids, because you're not in their marriage. They're in their marriage, and, they need to decide when it's right for them.
Well, that's just not generally how it works, though. And it's not as fun for TV. I wonder what kind of pressure Brandon's parents are putting on.
Oh, I'm sure a lot. And he's clearly doing a lot. I mean, like I said,
Well,
I still don't like his attitude about it.
Maybe it comes from them.
I think he needs to really work on reassuring her that she's enough.
Well, that would be important.
It doesn't work out.
And I don't think they've been there. I don't think that conversation has ever happened.
Yeah, and that's not good.
Yeah, because I don't feel it.
Because I think it would go, I don't either. And I think it would go a long way to, making her feel more secure in their relationship. Because she clearly doesn't feel that way.
Yeah, it's hard to put any type of, it's the ultimatums that you drop on somebody, or your deal breakers, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. It's just the whole situation seems uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it seems like to me he's saying like what he knows he has to say.
Yeah, it does seem like that.
Because you can't be on the other side of this.
Yeah, he wasn't overly convincing.
It'd be over. You just can't say it. But getting a second opinion's a thing, I would think, right? Yeah. But I think her fear is that was so traumatic.
Yeah, she's have to hear it again.
And that's, I think, maybe a common thing where a lot of people maybe don't go and see the doctor because
they don't want to hear the bad news.
You've had family members like that.
Yep, definitely.
Mm-hmm. And it's...
My mom was that way.
Yeah, I'd rather not know.
She would put things off because she thought it was something bad. Well, I mean, case in point, at the end of her life, the last time I visited her, she had like this giant growth on her forehead. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was like, a walnut on her forehead. Obviously not normal. And she had fallen a couple of times in the bathroom or lost her balance and hit it on the towel rack on the wall, and it had bled profusely. And so, that scared her even more. And so she didn't want to go and get it checked out. And I finally convinced her to have it looked at, while I was there. And she did go shortly thereafter and found out it was melanoma. Mm-hmm. And for months and months and months, she'd let this thing get bigger and bigger and bigger. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was... Obviously, your face and your head bleeds a lot anyway, sure. But a tumor is very vascular. And so
this is not a medical podcast.
That was another indication that this was a problem that needed to be seen.
Yeah.
And the longer you let melanoma go, it can spread to other parts of your body, and it's not just skin cancer anymore. Mm-hmm. And, in fact, she died of lung cancer.
Right.
Shortly thereafter. Never even got to have the melanoma taken off because she... got sick and had lung cancer and died 6 weeks later. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, case in point, you got to get stuff checked out. Yeah. Sometimes you need a second opinion.
But sometimes it's not easy to just say you gotta, right? Because it's about whatever it is in people's heads.
The thing is, you're going to have to face it one way or another. Either you let something kill you or you find out it's nothing.
Yeah, I get it. It's just
or
hard.
It's something and you catch it sooner and can fix it. Mm. But waiting is a terrible option.
I think you get a lot of times, and I think you remember, what was it, last season of The Other Way, right? Tata was at a point where I'm going and nobody's telling me what's wrong, and I'm doing this over and over and over again,
right.
But I'm just not getting where I need to go, and it can be frustrating.
Yeah, you have to be your own advocate when it comes to your health, because nobody knows your body like you do, and you know when something's not right. So you have to be persistent. Sometimes you have to go to more than one doctor.
Last we heard, Brandon was, I'm gonna speculate a little bit, because we don't know exactly what he's doing. Last we heard, he was a project manager for a pest control company. So I would assume he'd be at a point where he'd have some health insurance a little better.
Yeah, I would think.
Than, but maybe a little better package. So I think it's, and we know where they're living.
Right.
She would probably want to leave that immediate area to go to a female doctor, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're very familiar with this area. I've done a lot of work here. We lived in the area. But this last thing we heard, they're living by Naval Station Norfolk.
Yeah.
So right up there on Hampton Boulevard where it butts in. They're right off of there just after like Joint Forces Staff College. So like Ben Morrell and then that's up there. So that's where they're living. Not a lot of great doctoring going on in that part of town. So, that could be a part of it. And I think with female doctors, you really need the right doctor.
Yeah.
It can be, you can go somewhere and it may not be a great experience.
Not all doctors are good doctors.
We were watching, what was it, Crack Addicts?
Yeah.
We were watching something and it floated, the Balin Out Loud, and then Discovery Plus rolled into Crack Addicts. And I think we maybe watched 8 episodes of Crack Addicts.
It was interesting.
So that was whatever. And so I think we were at a point where maybe we think we need to see a chiropractor.
Yeah.
We need to make one of the kids. I don't know, though. Could you imagine the first time you had to, like, crack somebody's spine like that?
I don't know.
Do you practice on each other when you're in school?
Yeah, probably.
Oh, no, not quite. Like, what?
Whoops, didn't mean to paralyze.
Oh,
Sorry about
we
that.
go through more residents that way. It's probably pretty bad. The Natalie and Josh thing was a hot mess.
Yeah.
I kind of, because I'm old and a male, it turns out that I think most of us old guys turn out to watch TV like standing up. I think it's a thing. I've seen like a commercial about it. And so just because, I don't know why. I think it's my ADHD. That's what I thought it was. But
you always said it was like restless leg syndrome or something.
Well, and that's the thing. If I sit down and I have to get up. I actually saw a commercial about that. But I found that scene between them almost mesmerizing. The way Natalie was behaving.
Yeah.
Now, we know that Josh, I think we believe he's using her. Right?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes he looks like, he's trying to be decent, but it's hard to believe because she's so ridiculous that you have to wonder why he would stay unless he's just using her.
Could it even be some Mike, the same thing, like... We know there's something up with Natalie. And maybe Mike knew this too. And go, Natalie's not quite good. And I think maybe Natalie needs some kid gloves.
Yeah.
And so to do that, maybe I'm going to help her financially for a bit because I'm afraid what'll happen to her if she's left to her own accord. And I think maybe there's some of this in Josh, but I don't really believe he's that good of a person.
Well, his friends say that he has like this rescue mentality.
I get it.
This has happened before.
I don't get that vibe from Josh. I just don't. I get that he's
I do completely understand,
user.
though, why he has kept her away from his family.
Yeah, I mean,
she is unstable.
Before we even get to that point, it's that why is Josh still involved in the relationship? And maybe we've gone over that for, it seems like 5 years now.
He says that, at the beginning of this season, that his reason for being there is to figure out if it's possible to have a normal relationship.
Don't you know it's not? I mean, can't you see this?
Maybe he thinks if she gets the right help, then, that other side of her that maybe is fun could reign supreme and not be spoiled by her tantrums.
Yeah, I don't want to diagnose or anything, but man, her ups are up and her downs are down.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's surely a diagnosis somewhere for that.
Yeah.
We're not that podcast, but I think we know what we're talking about. Her treatment of that doctor
was horrible.
Was really horrible. And, she was inhaling that fruit. I don't know if you noticed. You probably didn't notice the details of that. But while the doctor's in deep conversation with Josh, Natalie's like just literally swallowing pineapple pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end, it's don't
like
forget
she's never had fruit before.
Yes, it would be like she's been on a season of Alone, and they bring you back to the tent, or what is it? It's like remember 60 Days In. It doesn't matter what happens when they all get out. They drive through like a chicken place or something, and they get the box or whatever. That's how she was eating it. And for her, you forgot your stuff. No, that's for you. No, you take it with you. Don't forget your plate. Bye-bye. I'm like, wow. But this just tells you. And she's like, you're not a real doctor.
Yeah, she doesn't show respect for anyone.
At all.
It's like she looks down on everyone. Like she's better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's clearly not the case.
There's something. And, I get Josh. And you can say what you want about PDA or intimacy, but in front of a camera crew, and it's just not happening.
No for that.
It's
for
just
me.
not happening. And we know that sugar-free, and I'll try to do this right, sugar-free syrup is just not something that would just run off you.
Yeah,
because
it's very thin.
There's nothing to it. It wouldn't stick to you at all. So that's just not happening, But I get it, right? We just wouldn't do it.
Why did he say he wanted sugar-free?
Oh, he didn't. She did. I think, wouldn't you? Look, if in general somebody goes, I'm going to put this.
Oh, he didn't want to be sticky. I get it.
Well, I think he just didn't want to do this, and he's looking for a way out, right?
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out why she said that.
Well, I think maybe it was just probably his words. Mm-hmm. But I don't blame him. If you were going to put something on me and I had to pick something, it surely wouldn't be big, thick, rich Aunt Jemima that I'm having you put on me.
100% pure maple syrup.
Yeah, it's just not. It's just not working. It's like, this is kind of gross. And I think it's, I get it. It's the stuff for TV, but what are they really looking for, and what are they trying to do here? And so I get it. And what you think you'd know that all in? Josh would just say, "Look, you know what? I'm not doing this at all." I told you I was watching it. I watched it much later in the week. I watched it Friday. You watched it probably Tuesday, I would assume. Mm-hmm. I said, in between scenes, you walk through, and I'm like, we were kind of talking about it. And I said, you know what? I'm going all in. Where can I put this that she would lick it off? I said, I'm going full in. I go, you know what, camera crew? You want to do this? Let's do this then, right? I just make everybody leave. Well, we can't do that. I said, all right, then let's stop. If we're not going to be real about this, if you're just going to make me put it on my shoulder.
Yeah, where do you want this?
Yeah, I know
where. Do you want me to lick this off?
I know where I want this, right? And so let's just stop this. Let's stop the charade, right? I'm going to put it on my arm. I mean, we all have whatever zones you want to call it, but none of them are our palm.
Yeah.
That's just not it. So stop. Let's just quit, right? I'm not playing your games anymore. Just not happening. He said something that was neat, and I thought it was telling of really of Natalie. It said that when they're together intimately, that she is much different the day after. And I thought this was the most telling thing.
I thought that was interesting.
Well, because I believe that she probably feels that it's not like a partnership, right? It would be like, you owe me something because of this.
You don't think it's because she feels like after that he should feel more tied to her?
It's more, right? I think she probably views intimacy much differently than he does. Mm-hmm. I think for him, it's just a wham bam and it's done. Mm-hmm. And for her, I think it does mean something. Mm-hmm. And I think that says something. But that she was different, right? And probably silent. Like she would seem like somebody that would just sit there and pout and make you ask her what's wrong.
He said she's much more demanding of his time and attention the next day. Wants more of him.
Well, I think they see themselves in different relationships.
That's interesting.
You know, he's all about, look, I'm not having you around the family. It's just not happening, right? And the Natalie we saw is not somebody you would bring around the family.
No, not at all.
This is not that person. I think they should have separated long ago.
Absolutely. And that's what we've been saying all
So that's
along.
kind of crappy, and I think it's just crappy of him. But I don't know what Natalie does when they're apart. She needs, this is going to sound really bad, and
it makes her seem very desperate to be hanging on to him with the way that he interacts with her.
She needs to be like Brynn from Real Housewives of New York. Right. So, you know, I think there's just that. Or what, I forget, whose name is what? There's so many housewife shows now. From Salt Lake, the one that dresses all crazy. Bronwyn, right. So, you know, do what you got to do. But this would be maybe more in line with Natalie and her target, because I think that would make her much more happy. She needs a sugar daddy. And Mike, Mike's not it.
Yeah, she does seem to want to feel taken care of.
Yeah, because I don't think she's capable of like a real mature relationship. It's just not something that she can do. Like Gino.
Her mom is so nice. And because she's here with her, I often wonder what her mom thinks of her behavior and her life choices and, this relationship. I mean, we know she's not particularly fond of Josh and really wants her to get back with Mike.
Right. Could Gino have been avoiding intimacy much more than he was doing here? It looked like he was, if it would have been like a twin bed, he would have been face down on the bed with his hands over the side, grabbing the side rails of the bed and pulling himself down.
Yeah. That was definitely a game of getaway.
This is like the safest camera for editing in the entire show, because nothing's actually happening here. The most they'd have to do is to bleep stuff out, right language, or possibly in whatever Jasmine's wearing, her hoo-ha could just pop out at any time.
Or tatas.
Yeah, whatever. I don't think those things are moving. I think once you pack those things in, they're settled. They're not going anywhere. I don't think so. Oh, I don't know.
Don't they look hard?
Yeah, she really looks like an IKEA purchased Jasmine body is what I think that is. Completely. You were a bit, I don't know, as of all of the things you were animated about from this episode, Ari got you the most riled up because of, it looked like the chance of Binyam and Ari getting in a better place, it was possible.
Yes.
I don't think it could ever happen.
Yeah. He seemed open, though. Like he was actually going to try.
He didn't she was, they were in the vehicle.
She was laying on him.
He didn't push her away.
He was cuddling with her. He had his arm around her. He was rubbing her arm. Like, these are loving gestures.
He did elbow her in the head a couple times. In the face.
But these are
Raising
loving
the roof.
gestures. And she just totally, it's never enough.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're arriving, right? And they're having this nice, positive moment. And she looks like she's basking in it for just a moment and then opens her mouth.
Mm.
Well, be nice to me, okay? We're going in a bar. Just don't do anything to embarrass me, okay? Like
he's a kid.
Like he's a child.
And like you could tell what it would take to embarrass her. I don't know what to believe between the two of them. Whether he cheated or didn't, I can tell you. Do you think she...
From what he said...
I get it.
To the guys...
We don't know, though.
About I've screwed up. Sounds like he has
probably
made some mistakes at some point in the relationship.
Well, shouldn't he at this point?
He wants to start over with a clean slate.
If this is true,
and if she wants to get past it, I believe she's got to accept that.
I think I probably side with her on this. I think I need you to acknowledge here something's up.
Well,
something
I'm
happened.
Sure that they have between the two of them. I'm not convinced he would air that out on television because of his career.
I don't think he's done it to begin with. I think he's still in denial. So we think something happened, that it's not in Ari, that Ari isn't making it up.
I'm not going to say he had an affair.
Yeah, I don't know.
But he was trying to explain and give detail, and she cut him off. And he said, if you don't let me finish, then I'm done with this conversation and I'm going to walk away. And she continued to interrupt him, and he still never got to finish his thought.
What if she knows? I mean, I don't think there's a difference between believing. Like, we think Ari's fully capable of inventing her own reality.
Yes.
We don't know that that's what happened here, right?
Yeah. And
but
it's also
possible.
Entirely possible that she, made up these suspicions in her mind.
Right.
And spit it at him all the time until he actually did it.
Well, I guess that's true. But that's still not an excuse.
And I'm not saying he's not at fault then for doing it, but I'm saying that she's such a negative person.
Eeyore is how I describe it.
It's like a black hole that sucks you in and destroys you. And,
Yep.
And I cannot imagine being around somebody like that all the time.
Yeah, she doesn't seem like fun.
Be draining. I'm not sure I've ever seen her have a genuinely fun, laughing, happy moment where she wasn't trying to read something more into it.
Yeah, I think of the scene when she was with the sister, and they were I don't know, they were getting, was it peanut? I forget what they were getting spread on their head, and she was sitting on this big hole and getting her hoo-ha smoked.
That was funny.
Yeah, but so if she knows he's lying, and I mean knows it, and it's not like in her own head, if she knows it, then do you sit there and listen to him tell lies? If it's really a lie, and they know things that we don't. And so I think I would feel for her if I'm going to sit here and legitimately let you tell this narrative of a lie, I'm not going to do it.
But this situation that she brought up that was old from when she was pregnant, he tried to explain.
But what if it's a lie?
The circumstance.
What if it's really a lie?
But listen.
Don't tell me what to do. Women's don't control me.
Video evidence or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
What she said was that she saw that she was there
at
the house and that he was there.
I get it.
And for her, that was convincing enough that something was happening. So I was interested in his explanation because there could be one. He said she was having
it's possible.
A difficult time dealing with the fact that he cut things off because she was pregnant. And so, he was trying to, because he said she was depressed. And I could see him, being sympathetic and, trying not to hurt somebody.
I can also see him butt-pongoing her.
Well, sure.
In the bedroom, too.
But, the fact is she never let him say what happened.
But what if she knows it's a lie? Not just thinks it's a lie. What if it's really between them?
Then
we
I
know.
Would come out with, here's my evidence. I know. So don't deny this ever again.
But his ultimatum is don't interrupt me. And so I guess she just has to sit there and listen, assuming it's a lie. Listen to the lie.
But she has never sat and listened to anything, ever.
Well, I mean, we don't know what happened. I'm not, defending Benny.
That we've seen.
Right.
At no point can she let anybody take the floor without her taking over.
Yeah, I think at this point...
She's a dominating person.
If she could just sit for a minute and I guess just block him out and then let him get the words in. But he flips her off and heads out. I'm out. Goodbye.
I mean, he asked her several times.
Yeah, I get it. That was his thing, so I get it. I think they're both really at fault here. I think this is just, and it's net recoverable.
Yeah, there's no fixing this.
No. Here, my favorite scene was the preview when Florian says he doesn't play with toys. I don't play with toys. Did you watch the previews at all?
Probably.
Yeah, but they're in the sandbox, and he goes, "I'm not. I don't play with toys," which is completely Florian. So that's wonderful. Funny. So for us, we're going to cover. We got Angela, right? Not the crappy Angela, but all Angela's crappy, but it's different. And Niles, we just got a bunch of other stuff. David and Annie, some other stuff, just more stuff. So stick around and subscribe and hear the rest of this episode.
Thank you for listening.
You can listen to the rest of this episode
by subscribing to our Coupled with Chaos channel on Apple,
by subscribing to our Patreon,
or by subscribing to our Supercast
for $3.99 a month,
where you can hear us talk about reality shows,
real life, and more on our podcasts,
covering shows airing on TLC, A&E, Bravo, and the WE Network.
Just follow the instructions in the show notes.
Tell your friends about this podcast.
And rate and review us on your favorite podcast player.
Follow us at Coupled with Chaos on all the socials.
Or contact us directly by email at coupledwithchaos@gmail.com.